Chapter 21 Harvest. You are listening at NovelsReturning. This guy Vino. Joseph felt heavy in his heart when he saw Wall being split in half by Vino's axe. He knew that the other party had used special drugs and relied on his alienated body to resist, bringing out greater potential, whether it was strength, speed, defense, or even recovery and vitality. The effect would be greatly increased, far exceeding the effect of adrenaline on ordinary people. But the consequence would be a decrease in rationality. Not only would he not be able to distinguish between friend and foe in battle, but he might even increase the possibility of madness. But things had come to this point, and coupled with the restraint of Vino by this strong acid blood, the other party might have been helpless. Boom! Another booby trap was triggered, and a nearby alien was blown to pieces, and a few points of strong acid blood were stained on Joseph. Joseph's face sank as he looked at the only 3 booby traps left in front of him. There were more than a dozen of these damn things that appeared before. They deliberately created hope and illusion for us. Looking back, Joseph took another look at Wayno, who was killing people after taking the medicine, but was covered with more and more acid blood. Joseph sighed. Man, let's run separately. As he finished speaking, he retreated to the edge of the cliff. A stone was knocked down by his footsteps and rolled down to the bottom of the valley. At the same time, he also saw 3 waves of escapers in the valley. Damn it. It's so troublesome before they officially enter the cannon fodder sequence, otherwise how dare they run? Standing on the edge of the cliff, some numbers appeared on Joseph's iris again, and then some changes appeared on his legs. Looking at the valley on the other side, which was lower but nearly 100 meters wide, he took a deep breath. It's too difficult to catch up with this kind of thing. His ammunition is definitely not enough, so he can only fight. He exerted force on his feet, and then as he jumped, the bottom of the box behind him, which looked like an ammunition box, sprayed a flame to help him jump together. As he began to fall like a parabola, Joseph, who adjusted his direction in the air, started another spray. After adjusting in the air 4 times in a row, he crashed heavily into the lower valley on the other side and hit a branch of a tree. With the help of the continuous breaking of branches, Joseph finally fell to the ground covered with fallen leaves. Then he struggled to stand up and ran quickly into the rainforest. On the other hand, Wayno here didn't care about the departure of his companions. He was still madly fighting with the aliens, regardless of the agility, speed, and strength of the aliens beyond the scope of humans. Facing the enhanced Wayno, there was really a feeling that he couldn't get close. Let him run rampant here, and beat the acid blood, double-edged axe, collision, headbutt. Every time it was a knife to the flesh. You can even directly grab the tail of the alien attacking, throw the alien to the ground and then step on it. And there is no idea of escaping with this power. Let the acid blood corrode the weapons and armor on the body, and even the original complete full body armor has fallen off in many areas due to corrosion. A lot of acid blood fell on his stratum corneum-like skin, but he seemed to feel no pain. But at this moment, suddenly a tail whip that was much longer than that of an ordinary alien was swung out from the depths of the rainforest and pierced through Wayno's body fiercely. Wayno, who could originally catch the tail of an ordinary alien with one hand or even swing it back, had no other way to deal with this sudden attack except to hold the tail tightly with both hands. Standing on the ground with his legs, his abdomen pierced, holding the long tail that was much longer than that of an ordinary alien tightly with both hands, the crazy Wayno seemed to want to drag the owner of the long tail out of the rainforest, but as the long tail exerted force and lifted him up, his movements became a little funny after his feet left the ground, accompanied by the rustling sound of the ground. A huge alien that was completely different from an ordinary alien and had some outlines of a giant python swam out of the shadow of the rainforest, looking very scary under the moonlight. The whole body is covered with black exoskeleton, without hands and feet, but the head is like a giant trilobite, and the body length is also comparable to that of a giant python, but it is even thicker. Rather than a giant python, it is better to say that it is a supergiant trilobite with a long tail. Slowly lifting Wayno's crazy body and moving it to the front, the giant python alien seemed to sniff Wayno, and did not spit out the more disgusting mouthparts to kill him, but flicked his tail and threw Wayno into the rainforest. One by one, the ordinary aliens quickly pounced on the place where Wayno was thrown in, and then the giant python alien locked his eyes on the other side of the valley, and after a roar from his mouth, He rushed towards the other side of the valley. There was no idea about the escaped little Karami. In addition to transporting Wino, the remaining few ordinary aliens also followed closely and pounced on the other side of the valley. Although they could not jump such a long distance, the cliffs along the mountain were like flat ground for the aliens, and they were not affected at all. He easily crossed the valley, climbed up, and entered the woods. The battlefield, which was originally fiercely fought, became quiet in an instant, leaving behind a pile of alien corpses and piles of giant python corpses below. The night wind blew, bringing with it a sour smell of blood and fishy smell. After a while, as the shadow twisted, the black smoke in the shadow seemed to condense into a human figure. Tao Yu, who was still chewing the blood orchid, looked at the battlefield in front of him, and his eyes were a little solemn. As expected of a child from the inner city, he has a rich pocket and a lot of things in his bottom box. Seeing the aliens that were blown to pieces, thinking of Joseph's automatic ejection and the booby traps that searched for the enemy, and Wino's suddenly crazy trump card, Tao Yu was also emotional. Just from the beginning of dealing with those big snakes, how can we see the limits of these two people? If we really use the situation at that time as a reference to deal with the two people, we really don't know how we died. But the aliens are really strong. Now it seems that the people of the primitive tribe probably didn't run away because they were avoiding the giant python. It is likely that they were captured by the aliens and used as incubation machines. In addition to the sound of their own gunfire, it is even possible that the aliens came to capture these giant pythons. Thinking of the last terrifying giant python alien, Tao Yu also felt a palpitation in his heart. If these 20 or 30 giant pythons were all captured by the aliens, it would be hell for newcomers like them who had just awakened. However, Tao Yu did not have time to think about it. He endured the nausea and began to look for the wish items condensed by the dead aliens. Most of the wish power gathered at the tail of the alien, and a small amount gathered in the mouth. Tao Yu did not care about the strong acid blood that accidentally stained his hands when collecting. He relied on the action ability of one certificate forever, that was more exaggerated than the battle continuation to speed up the collection. In fact, Tao Yu was worried that the aliens had the ability to sense him before, but as he tried to get close to one or two lone aliens and cooperated with Bullet Time, to observe and confirm that they really could not find him, he became bolder. He had been waiting for an opportunity in the shadows in the distance. The continuous mental power consumption of lurking in the shadows was not low. Under normal circumstances, he could not stay so long, but under the influence of constantly swallowing blood orchids to strengthen himself, his mental power was quickly replenished. Eating blood orchids not only strengthens the body, but also contains much more energy than ordinary meat, so Tao Yu's latent consumption can't even keep up with the replenishment speed. For ordinary people, it may just be a feeling of fullness and energy. Blood orchids have no therapeutic effect, but for Tao Yu, the scars caused by strong acid while searching for spoils were also repaired. Now is the time to harvest, it's not in vain. Chapter 22 Direction. You are listening at NovelsReturning. Different abilities can be stacked, but unfortunately the same ones cannot be stuck with bugs. Tao Yu looked at his new, lurking alien skill and felt a little emotional. Through the previous, basic combat revised, basic weapon revised, the flaw insight that can be stacked by doubling consumption, Tao Yu also knew that some repeated parts in the deified skills can be stacked. The wish tails and wish mouths provided by the dozen aliens here brought Tao Yu a total of more than 300 units of wish power. At the same time, the information carried by the alien tails has successfully gathered the skill, lurking alien. After Tao Yu's deification, he found that this ability was similar to the effect of the giant python's lurking deification, but it consumed 450 points of wish power, and it was stronger in all aspects. The most important thing is that the various effects of the two lurking abilities can be stacked. After the two skills were stacked, the deformation amplitude of the shadow transformation when he escaped into the shadow increased a lot. Now after escaping into the shadow, passing by the bushes, there is no collision. However, the price of the power stacking is that the mental and physical consumption will increase. Fortunately, the degree of stacking can be adjusted according to the consumption. Having tried the sweetness of lurking modified before, Tao Yu is quite satisfied with this skill, relying on the reaction of bullet time. As long as his physical strength is enough, he can even use this skill to avoid some damage, another step towards the assassin. It is a bit regrettable that Tao Yu excitedly collected another tooth of the giant python, and then found that he could no longer regain the ability of the giant python. The bug is not good. After absorbing another wish mouth of the alien, Tao Yu also closed his eyes and sensed the new skill that has not yet taken shape. Unlike the giant python, whose two skill information are on the teeth, the two skill information of the alien are in the tail and mouth respectively. However, the probability of the wish mouth appearing after death is much lower than that of the wish tail, so Tao Yu has not been able to complete that new skill now, but through the messy information fragments, he could roughly see that it might be some kind of ambush ability, increasing the lethality of sneak attacks. Assassins are assassins. It seems that I am quite adapted to this kind of ghost environment, and the speed of my physical fitness improvement is not bad. Tao Yu pinched his biceps. I used to be skinny, but after coming here, I relied on breathing methods to accelerate in enough blood food, and I have gained a strong body, especially in order to increase my ability. After eating dozens of blood orchids, Tao Yu also vaguely felt that his current body has reached or even exceeded the limit of ordinary people. Not only that, as the blood and qi surged in his body, he also felt that his upper limit had increased a little, and he could continue to use basic breathing method modified to develop the remaining potential. The bonus of breathing methods and blood orchids to the upper limit can be superimposed. Although it is a bit extravagant, it is also indispensable. Tao Yu knew that if he took the blood orchid back to sell, he would definitely sell it at a high price, but he didn't think it was a loss to invest in his own strength. If I sell them, there is no guarantee that so many blood orchids will cause some trouble, so I might as well eat them myself. It is important to save my life now. However, Tao Yu still kept 5 blood orchids in the bottom of the box. Not only can I take them out to sell, but I can also use them as high-energy food to quickly replenish my physical strength and spirit at critical moments. In addition, the backpack is full of the remaining snake teeth. These snake teeth can no longer provide new skills. As a wish power, I don't lack these 300 or 400 points, but they can't improve myself as quickly and intuitively as blood orchids. If I need them urgently, Tao Yu will of course absorb them directly, but if I have the opportunity, I can also take them back and sell them. After all, it is a set of skills, and it is a new skill in the new development area. From the fact that Weinoa will specially ask people to come here to get it, it can be seen that this skill is not bad for some pioneers. After the set, it may be worth several times or even dozens of times. My parents' income for a year without eating or drinking is only 3,000 or 4,000. This has to be deducted from daily consumption. It takes at least a few years to save up by living frugally. No wonder the inner city students easily brought 100,000 units of willpower at the beginning. The equipment and items on their bodies are probably of this level. The income gap is too big. Tightening his backpack, Tao Yu, standing in the valley, looked up at the opposite bank. But the inner city students can't get this kind of reward every time, otherwise Weinoa wouldn't ask people to wait. So, he will also attach great importance to the 3,000 willpower that Joseph lent. Thinking of this, Tao Yu's eyes began to become deep. The interest rate of 90% out and 13% back is too high. It's better to settle the account as soon as possible. Then he did not choose the path to leave the valley along the shore, but climbed towards the opposite bank where Joseph jumped off, in the direction where the alien python was chasing. The alien relied on its claws to climb up with a click, but Tao Yu had to do it like rock climbing when he came here. Fortunately, his physical fitness is now quite good. Even with a backpack weighing dozens of kilograms, it is still smooth to climb. He does not have a systematic climbing skill, but his physical fitness can make up for this shortcoming. The moonlight poured on him, and Tao Yu's vision was not affected by the darkness at all thanks to the passive dynamic vision brought by bullet time. After climbing the cliff on the other side, the dark rain forest in front of him also looked quite clear in his eyes, and he could even judge the traces of the giant python alien moving in the forest. Glancing at his two skills, lurking modified, and lurking tooth modified, Tao Yu's courage also grew. Before, one lurking could deceive the alien, and now there is no reason to be afraid of two superpositions. Moreover, even if he does not actively hide in the shadows, relying on the passive lurking ability of the two skills superposition, he can ensure that he has a good concealment and will not be easily noticed. Although the passive lurking ability is not as good as hiding in the shadows, it is not as consuming. In fact, my body is quite strong. I can easily climb up such a steep cliff with my things on my back without breathing. Tao Yu looked back at the cliff that was much steeper than the direction from which he came down, and he felt a little bit of accomplishment in his heart. When he just came here, even if he used the breathing method to strengthen a wave, he had to breathe even when climbing a tree. The difference is still quite obvious. Unfortunately, relying on the physical fitness of ordinary people at the extreme level is not enough to face monsters such as aliens and giant pythons. Compared with his own skills, it is still too young and biased. The body is the root of everything. But while sighing in his heart, Tao Yu also carried a gun and a backpack into the dark rainforest in front. I can't sleep well if I owe others debts. It's time to settle the debts. It doesn't matter if the others dispersed, it's harmless, but Brother Joseph must find a good way to repay him. An alien was lying on a tree, its mouthparts kept sniffing something on the trunk, and the mucus in its mouth kept dripping, which looked very disgusting. The long and slender tail kept swinging, bringing out a sense of fatal threat. The next moment, it seemed to hear something below, and it pounced on the ground with thick leaves, and followed the sound to approach the trunk of a giant tree in front, suddenly accelerated and poked its head, and the tail seemed to be able to stab out at any time. But then, it found that there was nothing behind the tree trunk. It just lowered its head and began to look at a stone that had just stopped rolling in front of it, slowly sticking out its mouthparts as if it wanted to smell something again. A flash of snow-white cold light flashed, and the whole alien stiffened. After a moment, the head slowly slid down and the body and head separated. Puff. As the head fell, the green acid blood gushed out, dyeing the surrounding area green, and making a sizzling corrosion sound. After the alien body was completely motionless, a figure slowly emerged from the shadows accompanied by a burst of black smoke. Looking at the alien tail that gathered willpower, he couldn't help but curl his lips. It's the tail again, it's a sin. Shaking and folding the broken boomerang in his hand, Tao Yu put it back behind him, and he also felt the load on his body. Double latent power, combined with bullet time, plus the blood and chi of breathing method, and the multiple power superposition of burst modified, and basic weapon modified, using Wino's alloy boomerang to decapitate was as smooth as cutting butter, and the decapitation of an alien was completed in an instant. However, this test also made Tao Yu feel the slight strain of tendons and ligaments from the thigh to the waist and then to the arm, and nearly 40% of physical strength and about 20% of mental consumption. Compared with the previous fight against the three snakes, the situation is much better. At least it is only a strain without a break, and the repair consumes less energy. An additional 10% of physical strength can recover the injury. There is still enough physical strength, but the endurance is still not good. Tao Yu stuffed a few fat tree worms into his mouth. With some auxiliary abilities, he was much bolder in eating. However, looking at the pile of alien corpses in front of him with the message poisonous, Tao Yu still couldn't eat it at all. It's better to eat some insects. Joseph is quite good at hiding. The aliens coming over obviously haven't found him yet. Maybe he has some abilities that he hasn't shown yet. After putting away the alien's tail sting and finding that his backpack couldn't hold any more, Tao Yu hesitated for a moment and then absorbed it directly. This kind of skill needs a set to increase the price. If it can't be a set, it's better to absorb it as an ordinary wish power unit. Ordinary people can't ignore the impact of messy information on the spirit. The number of needs is much greater than their own. It should be difficult for the aliens to form a set that ordinary people can take out. The absorbed wish power can also recover injuries when necessary, so it's more reassuring. Chapter 23 Debt Settlement. You are listening at NovelsReturning. Joseph kept shuttling through the forest. At this time, there were many corrosion marks on the skin on his head, revealing half of his mechanically modified face, like a metal skeleton. One eye also flashed red light. Beast. Joseph's half-skeleton-like mechanical face showed a ferocious look. Who would have thought that such a big mess would appear on a mere awakening day? How long ago was it that the inner city disciples died on the awakening day? It was so embarrassing. But thinking of the thorny nature of those wish creatures, and the giant python-shaped monster that he saw when he turned back before, Joseph's heart was also heavy. Fortunately, he was semi-mechanized now, and with some devices on his body, he had a very high hiding method for smell, otherwise he would probably be caught up by those things, but even now, through some early warning devices arranged along the way, he has already noticed that those things are approaching, although the number seems to be small and he can handle it. Joseph has no idea of killing them. This is a very smart and cunning creature of will. They will take the initiative to reveal their flaws to lure people into the trap, giving you the illusion that you can defeat them. This is why the two of them persisted for so long before they finally escaped and couldn't take the risk. When I succeed, I will bring people to destroy your nest. Damn, so much loss. Not even Joseph's worth, thinking about his losses along the way, can't help but feel a little distressed. Whether it is the booby trap or the repair of the corroded area on his body, the cost is not cheap. It's really embarrassing to lose so much without getting anything. I hope that B-level kid can survive, otherwise there will be no gain at all. Joseph thought of the 3,000 units of will and the B-level talent of the outer city. If the mud leg survives, it can barely make up for some losses. His losses are so great that he must find a place to make up for it. It feels a bit of a loss to just use the lone relationship to become a follower. I have to find a way to become a private cannon fodder and slave. This land reclamation environment is more dangerous than imagined. Find his family and borrow some money, and then give him more happiness. It should be arranged. I will think about it later. Joseph thought in his heart, the outer city mud legs were appreciated by his inner city children, shouldn't they be grateful? But just at this time, Joseph was slightly stunned and stopped his steps alertly. The latest early warning device he had just set up was triggered, but no effective picture was sent. Something is coming. Standing in place, stopping the noise interference caused by his running, Joseph continued to increase his ability to read sounds, but except for the sound of the wind blowing through the branches, there was no additional sound captured by him. Joseph raised his shoulder gun, and the mechanical arm switched to Gatling mode again. The other hand pulled out another high-energy incendiary bomb. A solemn look appeared on the skull-like semi-mechanized face, and he kept scanning everywhere with the mechanical eyes, but the next moment, a bullet hit his forehead at a tricky angle. The violent impact made the bullet seem to be embedded directly into the metal skull. Before Joseph recovered from the huge impact, a tearing feeling from the soul suddenly appeared. He had felt this kind of attack. This was an attack that his father reminded him of some special attack methods and let him try to adapt in advance. It was an attack from the spiritual side. Mental power attached to the bullet? What the hell? But his thoughts were immediately shattered by the second bullet, followed by the third. The fourth. The continuous tearing interrupted all his thoughts and interrupted all thoughts. Continuous bursts of shooting came from the treetops in the distance. The intense pain made Joseph constantly twist and struggle to dodge, but it was meaningless. The bullet seemed to have eyes and locked firmly in his head. The alloy exoskeleton, specially thickened for the fatal zone, the defense that even the aliens had never penetrated, was constantly bursting with sparks of bullet collisions. The continuous mental shock in his brain made it impossible for Joseph to launch an effective counterattack. He could only fire his shoulder gun like crazy and aimlessly. He kept breaking the branches around him, leaving terrible holes on the giant trees, and even knocked down 2 giant trees. The deformed Gatling gun in his hand swept around like a whip, causing debris to fly around. The high-energy incendiary bomb that had not yet been fired also fell to the ground helplessly. He even opened his mouth suddenly the next moment, revealing a black muzzle from his mouth, and began to spray continuously. He looked crazy. Waves of electronic external sound gushed out from the sound in front of his chest. Come out. Beast. Beast. Who is it? Who is it? But obviously, no one could answer his question, and Joseph, who was in a cramp in his mind, could only struggle helplessly and furiously. Then a bullet finally penetrated the last protection, opened his eye socket protection armor, and drilled in fiercely. After shooting into the sky for a while, Joseph fell straight to the ground, but even though he fell to the ground, the shooting still didn't stop for a moment. After finishing 2 magazines, Tao Yu replaced the new ones and started loading bullets into the empty magazines. No wonder mechanical transformation and alien transformation are so popular. They have unique advantages in terms of defense. Tao Yu looked at Joseph, whose head had been smashed, and couldn't help feeling a little emotional in his heart. Among the many world fragments in the abyss, the weak defeating the strong and killing at first sight are quite common situations. It's not strange for a top powerhouse to be shot in the head and then feel resentful. Many of the stories he heard and the rumors his parents heard had this record. Obviously, the modification of Joseph's head may have been specifically to prevent others from sneak attacks with firearms. The armor was added, and it took more than a dozen rounds of bullets to lose the ability to resist. Tao Yu felt uneasy about the subsequent finishing blow. In addition to the stronger physique brought by the alien body, the previous Wei Noa also had full body armor. They should be so armed for the sake of fault tolerance. The thing to guard against is rollover. This bastard is also an old man. He even has a gun in his mouth. If it weren't for a sneak attack, even if he is knocked to the ground, as long as he is given a chance, he may be overturned. Tao Yu felt a little sad when she thought about the last shot fired randomly from the other party's mouth. This is something that has never been exposed when dealing with aliens. In fact, he had considered destroying the opponent before, and then forcing the opponent to change his willpower, but now that he thought about it, he luckily didn't take any action. That's right, it's not stupid. If you transfer it to yourself, then it will be of no value at all. Looking at Joseph's body, Tao Yu was silent for a moment, and finally did not choose to touch the body anymore. After being besieged and forced by aliens, this guy should have almost revealed his trump card. After all, it is a mechanical modification. If anything else is installed, we will die together. Boom! A violent explosion shot up into the sky, and even though they were some distance away, Tao Yu could feel the strong wind and heat wave blowing from the front. Looking at the explosive fireball that exceeded the Wano high explosive grenade, Tao Yu couldn't help but feel guilty. You are really special. Looking back at the deep rain forest, Tao Yu no longer hesitated. After stuffing a few more fat, white and tender insects into his mouth, he jumped down from the treetops, and then quickly moved towards the east. Go, the hidden dangers have been solved, and the harvest has been good. Now we can successfully save our lives and survive. At present, the life-saving ability is almost enough. For the remaining willing power, we can consider extending the use cycle according to the remaining time to increase the cost-effectiveness of the willing power. Taking advantage of the abundance of meat in the rainforest, try to use up your willpower before going back. Zizi, that kind of willing creature should have a parasitic ability. The young body is very weak and is responsible for parasitic host. It has different abilities depending on the host. We found that the radio station we received was a crashed spacecraft. But most of the useful things have been destroyed, which is a pity. There was an artificial man who had been trying to trick us into feeding that kind of wishing creature, and he was killed by us. However, there is a toxin called black water nearby. If you are not careful, it may be dangerous to you. It is not suitable as a new gathering place. Site selection. On the treetop, Tao Yu held up his old antique receiver again, receiving the new day's information. It turned out that the floating city siblings had almost cleared the area on the grassland next door. Joseph and Wainoa, the two inner city boys, showed all kinds of powerful trump cards at the critical moment of life and death, which made Tao Yu feel a little nervous just thinking about it now. If the previous sneak attack on Joseph had not incorporated mental attacks, the opponent might have been locked in position from a distance and launched a precise long-range counterattack. Wei Noa's madness is also quite exciting. It doesn't seem strange that the siblings in the floating city pushed the fragment next door. Now the mission objectives have been updated. With the inner city children as the core, they have begun to spread out to explore, select sites for gathering places, and find new world fragments. There are still 3 days left before the first batch of pioneers return. The first batch of the main task of all the pioneers these days is to stay together as a team and survive. After you return to Xingyao City, you will make arrangements based on your specific situation. As long as you return alive, you will have completed the mission. As long as you have combat talents or auxiliary talents that we recognize, you will be rewarded with a guaranteed reward of 1,000 units of willpower. Obviously, because of the presence of the black water toxin that can give birth to aliens, the grassland area is indeed not suitable as a gathering place. If the forest side works harder to develop and spend some time, it has this potential, but obviously the siblings still want to find a better area. It doesn't matter if it is a temporary gathering place, but if you want to open it as a new gathering place for a long time, there are probably many factors to consider: survival environment, survival resources, general situation of nearby world fragments, safety and danger, etc. Although the guy from the floating city sometimes spoke a bit bluntly, Tao Yu had to admit that for the ordinary people who entered this time, they were indeed lucky to have two thighs from the floating city. Only they can mobilize enough resources to create a relatively stable area. Just the fact that combat talents and approved auxiliary talents will be rewarded with at least 1,000 units of willpower after returning is considered very generous. This is probably a benefit that only space-time anomalies encounter when opening up Wasteland, and it is enough for ordinary families in outer cities to have a party. There is still a big difference in style between the floating city siblings and the two inner city pioneers. In other words, for the people in the floating city, the dirt legs in the outer city are not worth mentioning. Tao Yu crossed the rainforest alone for a few days, and he could feel the fatigue of being alone. In terms of strength, he could defeat the alien and the giant python. Even if it was the giant python alien, if he had the chance to meet it, he could overdraw his body and fight it. His sneak attack ability could create various possibilities, but the oppressive feeling of having to open one eye when resting still made Tao Yu nervous. He was afraid that he would see the cherry mouth of the alien when he opened his eyes. Most of the time, vigilance and precautions were actually useless. And they were all useless, but he had to stay vigilant at all times. Whether it was the giant python or the alien, Tao Yu had created different versions of lurking. This shows that they are also very good at sneak attacks. With Tao Yu's current strength, he would be dead even if he was successfully sneak attacked in the opposite direction, that is, relying on the power of bullet time. He can detect it in advance while staying vigilant, and now he has lurking modified. If he can detect danger in advance, his ability to save his life is still very strong, but the premise is that he needs to be vigilant enough. It's still because of the lack of endurance and defense. If I can stay in the shadows all the time, or if my defense is enough to survive the next sneak attack, I won't be so nervous. Tao Yu sighed in his heart, thinking of Joseph's head that was shot more than a dozen times, and Wino's full body armor. After listening to the broadcast, Tao Yu climbed down from the tree and cut a piece of meat from the roasted wild boar on the fire with a knife. Although there is still some salt on the body, it is really unpalatable with only salt and no fishy smell. Chapter 24 Clues. Thanks to the leader, the head of the Novice Village, Taipal. You are listening at NovelsReturning. Is this the barrier of the world fragments? Tao Yu looked at the grassland in front of him, his eyes full of shock. Abnormally abrupt scene change. On the last day before returning, he barely passed through the rainforest and came to the grassland mentioned on the radio. Turning his head, he saw the dense rainforest that suddenly appeared behind him. You can see many giant trees, which were directly torn apart by the brutal middle. Many of the outermost giant trees were cut vertically, revealing uneven tree cores. The cut surface was not smooth, like a dog gnawed, just like the higher ground below. The messy earth-cut surface can also see many tree roots underground, and the ground is about 3 meters higher than the grassland. It's like a piece of puzzle was violently torn off, and then forcibly stuffed here to complete the splicing. There is a line between two worlds. Tao Yu looked up at the sky. At present, there is no obvious sign of division in the clouds and sunlight in the sky. Maybe there was before, but the clouds are unpredictable, and after being torn apart, they slowly turned into a new shape, and the whole was still spliced. As for sunlight and day and night, I heard that the fragments of the abyss were relatively chaotic before. Sometimes several fragments were unified together, and sometimes the adjacent worlds were completely different, and there were even complete independent worlds. In short, the situation in the abyss is very chaotic and complicated, and even the company's records are not comprehensive. As for whether it is possible to fly out of the atmosphere to see if there is a starry sky outside, it is not certain at all. It is likely to be a Schrödinger superposition state. You will know it only after you go there. I heard that when new world fragments appear near the company gathering place, they may fall from this divided area, or even fall directly from a certain world. and then directly form a new world. Overnight, the world has changed drastically. Tao Yu thought of the little information he had learned, and he couldn't help but sigh. In addition, when he jumped from the ground more than 3 meters high in the rainforest to the grassland, he could still feel a slight sense of awkwardness. This should be the difference in the so-called world power. Different world fragments have different rules, and the upper and lower limits of the power performance of many world fragments are very different. However, my parents only mentioned this knowledge at home. This kind of restriction has little to do with the people in the outer city whose upper limit is only the limit of ordinary people. In fact, the most obvious place for this kind of restriction is the real world. While resisting the swallowing of the abyss, the world will also show obvious oppression on the power of the real world. It should be the self-protection of each world, well, but again, these have little to do with the mud legs of the outer city. It seems that the stronger the strength, the more obvious the suppression. In addition, in theory, the various unique creatures in the world fragments will be blocked when entering other fragments, but judging from the fact that the aliens have been playing all over the rainforest, the strength of this blockage should also vary according to the different worlds. The grass is also quite lush, don't worry about the lack of shadows. Tao Yu looked at the grassland. The grass here generally grows to the chest, which can be said to be abnormally lush. Under the breeze, you can see the waves of grass sea, but there are also various murderous intentions under this grassland. Apart from other things, if the aliens crawl and move at high speed, they can completely hide themselves in the sea of grass. But fortunately, there are shadows here, and Tao Yu also has better hiding skills. From the content of the broadcast, this should be the destroyed planet in the Prometheus world. Because of the black water, there seems to be no creatures in this grassland, and there are not many things to eat. Because he has been practicing the accelerated breathing method, Tao Yu's demand for food is still relatively large, and this is the first thing he considers. However, because this place is connected to the rainforest, the aliens have entered the rainforest as wish creatures, and there must be animals in the rainforest that will enter this grassland full of dead silence. There are no restrictions on the movement of ordinary animals, but, because of the black water, many of these creatures may encounter bad luck and become materials for the aliens. I don't know how long these two world fragments have been adjacent, but since the face huggers are already running around, it is estimated that the collapse is also serious. This made Tao Yu a little worried. With the existence of black water and face huggers, all animals in this rainforest have the potential to become aliens. As time goes by, the two worlds will erode each other. Will there be an endless army of aliens in the end? TSK, those two guys in the floating city are quite responsive and know that this place is not suitable for settling down, but in fact, if they choose a location close to here, they may still be impacted, or it is almost unavoidable. The pioneers from Xingyao City also rely on their legs to find a suitable gathering place, and their speed may not be as fast as the spread of aliens. What kind of world is this? If there are only giant pythons in the rainforest, the difficulty is more difficult than the normal awakening day, but it is actually controllable. The same is true for the aliens on the grassland alone. Because there were no creatures on the grassland originally, the total number of aliens is also limited, but after the combination of these two ghost places, the rainforest with rich resources and excellent goods such as giant pythons plus aliens, this combination is directly bloody, at least even for Tao Yu now. His scalp is tingling. We must find new world fragments, or fragments that can stop the creatures of will. These two places are too magical. Tao Yu did not go deep into the grassland, but walked along the junction of the rainforest and the grassland. Next to him was the rainforest ground more than 3 meters high, and the soil with roots and stems occasionally appearing below, like a mud wall. He looked around and didn't see the smoke signals lit by the two teams of the floating city, so the distance must be very far. In this case, he wanted to try to go to other world fragments. I don't know how big these two world fragments are. If the entire planet is torn off and thrown here, it will really be a long way to go, traveling across the world on foot. What a hell joke. I don't know if I can get some assembled mountain bikes when I go back. It would be better if I can have solar-powered ones. Because it was the last day, Tao Yu also relaxed a little and emptied his mind, but at this moment, he frowned slightly and looked back at the sea of grass that was as high as a person. The ripples in the grass were wrong. Something was coming towards him. Alien, Tao Yu's heart sank, and then he quickly escaped into the shadows. The surrounding scenes suddenly became modeled, turning into the perspective of the shadows. The next moment, Tao Yu quickly moved towards the source of the movement. In the perspective of moving forward in the shadows, the reflections around him shuttled rapidly. Although his mental and physical strength were declining, his speed was much faster than Tao Yu's own full-speed running. The most important thing is that as long as he increases the mental consumption, he can perform the superposition of the double shadow depth of the two latent skills. It can also continuously reduce its own collision volume. Although it cannot penetrate the wall, it can move in the grass without affecting the swaying of the grass, and there will be no footprints or traces under his feet. It seems to be 5, tisk, it's very difficult. Tao Yu now has a clear judgment on himself. He can kill 1 alien and 2 aliens in a row with continuous close combat sneak attacks. But if he encounters more than 3 at the same time, he can only find a way to use the range of the gun to make a detour. 5, it's almost the limit he can deal with. All abilities and props must be used. The endurance is almost being pushed to the limit, the risk is too great. I'm afraid I have to run first. He has high burst and high lethality. Even if the alien is stronger, he is sure to deal with it, and even sneak attack and kill it, but facing the round-robin battle and siege, it is really embarrassing. Still not enough endurance. But then, Tao Yu looked at the fierce grey wolf half a person's height in front of him, and couldn't help feeling speechless. After all this time, it turned out to be several grey wolves. Isn't this scary? Although the grey wolf he saw was as big as an Alaskan dog and quite fierce, compared with the alien he originally judged, Tao Yu was relieved. Not bad, just treat it as a meat supplement, dry it and hide it. I don't know if there will be more next time. While thinking of this, Tao Yu also swung his knife and cut off the neck of the grey wolf in front of him without wasting any bonus. Although the move was casual, Tao Yu did not mean to look down on the grey wolf. Without tools and weapons, the 5 large grey wolves can still bring fatal danger to Tao Yu. Because of the number, because it is easy to lose sight of one thing while focusing on another. In the process of evolution of dogs, their teeth are very good at biting, and they can easily tear off a piece of meat after biting and leave, which is specially prepared for group attacks. On the other hand, although the long canine teeth of cats can easily kill with one blow, cats are actually not good at group attacks and biting. Even lions living in groups mainly rely on claws when cooperating. The teeth are used to lock the throat or the spine. If the claws are not fixed well, the teeth will break in minutes. 5 grey wolves of this physique, in this high grassland environment, it is easy for individuals with guns to overturn if they are not careful. But my current physical fitness and weapons should be fine if I pay attention. After killing one, Tao Yu didn't want to waste extra mental energy to escape into the shadows. Looking at the bayonet on the assault rifle, he felt the sense of power bursting out of his body and prepared to hone it a little. With bullet time as a backup, he is not afraid of overturning. This is indeed a good opportunity. Swished up the next moment, the second grey wolf jumped out of the bushes, its ferocious canine teeth interlaced, and it had a completely different wildness from the domestic dog. No additional skills were used, only passive dynamic vision and the passive blessing of the basic weapon. Tao Yu, who now has reached the limit of ordinary people's physique, easily took a step to the side, and then backhandedly stabbed the bayonet into the neck of the grey wolf accurately. After falling heavily to the ground, the grey wolf struggled a few times, but soon with the infiltration of blood, the struggle became smaller and smaller. Humans are considered beasts. Tao Yu chuckled, and then backhanded a gun butt and hit the head of a grey wolf that was attacking from behind. The limit of human strength combined with the force-generating skills of the basic weapon, a gun butt split the head of the sneak-attacking grey wolf, and the skull was directly smashed. It's time for you to review the memory of being dominated by the terrifying upright ape. When Tao Yu looked at the 4th alien mouth that pounced on him, the corners of his mouth twitched. This old man, I knew you were so insidious. Bullet time. The surrounding scenes kept slowing down, and the flying alien's movement slowed down instantly. Because the alien was in the middle of the pounce, there was no leverage point except the tricky tail. Tao Yu only relied on the consumption bonus of bullet time, combined with the chi and blood of the breathing method and burst modification, squeezed his tendons to the extreme, and easily completed the evasion, and this time, Tao Yu did not escape into the shadows immediately, but raised his gun with his backhand, concentrated on pulling the trigger. The bullet drilled directly into the body of the sneak-attacking alien from behind. Acid blood splashed. After being hit by the bullet, the alien, in addition to the physical stiffness caused by the bullet impact, seemed to have a sudden decrease in reaction. It just fell to the ground and kept rolling and struggling, and could no longer launch an effective counterattack. After firing half a magazine, Tao Yu retreated back into the shadows while running backwards. As the perspective of the colorful shadows changed, Tao Yu's speed increased again, and he moved towards the last one at high speed. Why did it become a wolf again? After drawing his knife and chopping the last one to death, Tao Yu seemed a little speechless. Originally, he was prepared. The last two were aliens. He tried to save energy by using a gun to deal with one, and stealthily killed the second one, but the second attack with full confidence turned out to be another wolf. 4 wolves and 1 alien. Tao Yu suspected that this alien wanted to capture these gray wolves and follow them quietly. It seemed that this was the only reasonable explanation. However, considering that the alien appeared, Tao Yu was not in the mood to stop and slowly roast the meat. Tao Yu didn't want to be greedy after chopping off 2 wolf hind legs. Anyway, it was the last day, and chopping 2 legs was to take them back to supplement some meat. Hey, good luck. Tao Yu was also a little happy when he felt that the place where the alien gathered the willpower was the mouth. He only needed 1 or 2 more for his second skill, so the probability of this willpower mouth was still relatively small. Even if it is not formed after absorbing this, it should be enough to replenish the willpower. But are there such large wolves in the rainforest? Tao Yu was a little confused while absorbing the willpower mouth. After so many days of traveling in the rainforest, he had only seen a kind of skinny little wolf that ate fruits, and he had never seen one of this size. In other words, this might come from another world fragment. Willpower creatures may encounter obstacles when traveling in world fragments, but ordinary creatures will not. Chapter 25 Return. You are listening at NovelsReturning. Time is up. With that clear realization in his heart, Tao Yu also knew that the 15-day trial on the Day of Awakening was about to end. When everyone awakens their talent and becomes a pioneer at the age of 18, they will inevitably be forced to stay in the Abyss Rift for 15 days before they can reconnect with the will of the world and return. Except for this time, all subsequent travel between the Abyss and the present world relies on meditation. Once you become proficient, you can complete the journey by meditating for a quarter of an hour. However, no matter which side you go to, the minimum cooling time for traveling is 5 days, and if you stay in the world for a long time, you may accumulate madness. It is best to go to the Abyss once a month. The same is true in the Abyss. If you stay for a long time, you have to return to the present world regularly. However, this time varies from person to person and is not absolute. Some people can last longer, and some people go crazy in less than a month. Currently, they are all based on experience. Some summary: it can only be determined that the stronger the strength, the longer it can be maintained continuously, whether in the Abyss or in this world. There are stories among the people that some strong men who have not appeared for a long time are thought to be dead, but in fact they encountered some adventure in the Abyss. It is said that there are some unique Abyss areas that exceed the scope of influence of the world's will and will not be able to teleport. Rich people can also use the power of will to extend their duration, etc. However, these special circumstances have nothing to do with Tao Yu's former identity as a mud-legged man from the outer city. Ordinary out-of-towners only make the round trip once a month. Tao Yu found that his body was gradually disappearing like a mosaic, and the next moment the scene in front of him changed. It's still the same square as when I came from the outer city, with the same old and modeled statues. The floating city overhead was still suspended in the sky, bringing a heavy sense of oppression, and the wall of gray mist on the periphery was still rolling. As he returned, voices gradually reached his ears. Back! Back! The first batch has returned. Why are there so few? Are there 50 people here? Abeo! Abeo, are you there? Why is there only so much? Where is the time and space anomaly? There are few people in the inner city. Where's Joseph? The chaotic sound was like a vegetable market. Tao Yu looked around and wondered if it was due to the abnormal events in time and space. The outside of the square was full of people, most of them were people from the outer city who were dressed in simple or even dirty clothes. However, they also had special security. The team is here for maintenance. Some well-dressed guys stood alone and observed silently. They should be big shots from the inner city or even the floating city. There were 40 or 50 people lying or standing sparsely in the center of the square. Almost everyone was covered in dirt and dust, and many of them were obviously injured, stained with blood, and kept wailing. Tao Yu herself wasn't much better. She hadn't taken a shower for 15 days and was wallowing in the mud. She still smelled of putrefaction in plasma, and her whole body stunk. The surface of her cowhide armor was all patinated, and his dynamic vision easily scanned the worried parents, who seemed to be anxiously looking for him, and then Tao Yu also raised his hand and shouted. "Dad, Mom, I'm here, I'm fine." Although Tao Yu has changed a lot, with the blessing of blood orchid and breathing method reform, as well as the continuous supplement of meat, he has grown stronger and his height has increased a lot. From the previous thin body of less than 1.7 meters to nearly smooth body shape of 1.8 meters. But Tao's father and Tao's mother recognized him immediately, and they both breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that he was fine and looked like he had gained a lot. As long as they come back safely, the experience of the eldest and the second child directly gave them PTSD, so even if the income is not high, they gritted their teeth and made a good entry-level basic set for Tao Yu with 1,000 units of willingness points. To put it bluntly, without their support during the most difficult time, it would have been almost impossible for Tao Yu to come back alive. How is that possible? Where is Joseph? What happened to Wei No? Was he so seriously injured? Tao Yu was startled when he heard two screams next to him. Damn it, did you commit suicide? Looking back, Joseph must have died cleanly, but he actually saw Wei No's burly body. I saw a huge wound on his chest, his ribs were turned out, and you could even see the rotten internal organs inside, but this guy managed to survive. This shuttle will not have any therapeutic effect, so this guy can resist it. This made Tao Yu's eyes widen. I thought that the crazy Wei No would have died earlier, but how could I have thought that he would still survive? Was this captured and used as an incubation machine? And what special vitality did he rely on to survive? A bit exaggerated, Tao Yu saw a burly red-skinned man with horns on his head and a demon-like face. He pushed aside the others and quickly walked up to Wei No. He pierced a needle into him without caring, his eyes full of angry. Where was the will of the world throne? How come all the mud-legged people in the outer city survived, and Wei No was so seriously injured? Joseph is dead. Another figure who looked just like an ordinary person, but was extremely handsome, so handsome that it was a bit unreal and hard to tell the difference between male and female, also had a solemn expression at this time. How could it be possible? How could Joseph die in such a place? It should be parasitized by that kind of alien creature. If the number is large enough, it is normal that they will not be able to deal with it when they just enter. A cold voice came from the side, and Tao Yu also saw a slim figure. She was not even covered with dust, still wearing the tight black combat suit. She was the elder sister of the floating city siblings. Her appearance was as exquisite and refined as hers, but her brother, who was flat on his back, came over and stood aside indifferently. There were only 7 inner city disciples in the first batch, and 1 died and 1 was seriously disabled. It was really not good news, seeing that there were 2 people coming. The obviously furious red-skinned horn-strong man also suppressed his emotions and squeezed out a smile. "Miss Sun, I'm so sorry, it seems that my son can't serve you in the short term." "It doesn't matter, this is a bottle of micro-life potion, it should be of some use, cure it as soon as possible." Sun Shiyu's pretty face was still a little cold. She threw a bottle of red potion out, which made the red-skinned strong man thank her repeatedly, and then poured it directly into Vino's wound, making a sizzling sound. Tao Yu could clearly see that Vino's originally purple-blue complexion seemed to have eased a lot, and the effect of the medicine was significant. Vino, who was soon stabilized, was placed on a stretcher and sent away quickly. If this kind of injury happened to someone from the outer city, they would definitely die, but the inner city might have a chance. after dealing with the problem of one wounded and one dead in the inner city, Sun Shiqing, the younger brother of the two siblings, glanced at someone from the outer city. He was a man with a square face, meticulously dressed, and two small mustaches. Tao Yu also knew this man. He was the captain of the outer city security team and could be regarded as one of the most powerful people in the outer city. His name was Sichuan. There was no trace of machinery or alienation on his body, but he firmly occupied the position of the security captain, which showed that his ability was still quite strong. With just a glance, the square-faced security captain hurriedly walked to the square where Uncle who was at the beginning and said loudly, "Okay, silence." The scene, which was a little flustered and with some sobbing, quickly quieted down with his words. Although there were still a few uncontrollable sobs and some wailing, the overall situation was stable. This time-space anomaly was an unexpected event, and the casualties were extremely heavy. Even some inner-city students died on the Day of Awakening, which shows how difficult it was. But now the city council has urgently passed the draft of the construction of the new gathering place, with Sun Shiyu and Sun Shiqing as the core, and commissioned Xingyao Company to build our second gathering place in Xingyao City. It is unfortunate to encounter time-space anomalies, but compared to other people who encounter time-space anomalies, this group is lucky. The original survival rate of about 60% on the Day of Awakening dropped by more than half, which is enough to see the risks, but it is indeed as the captain of the security team Zayan said, Xingyao Company will come forward to build a new gathering place, led by the two core students of the floating city. Compared with the pioneers who fend for themselves when they encounter time-space anomalies, it is already pretty good. At least there is hope, however, judging from the conclusion that has been drawn now, and it seems that the Sun family siblings have been informed. This pair of siblings from the floating city should have props that can directly communicate with the real world. The foundation is indeed far beyond the reach of the pioneers of the inner and outer cities. Chapter 26 Welfare. You are listening at NovelsReturning. The development of a new gathering place is difficult and may bring dangers, but this is not only to develop a gathering place for the company, but also to save yourself. The company has supported you until now, and it is time for you to repay the company. The company is generous and has given a special gift for this development mission. There is even a quota for the inner city. Sichuan, like Uncle who before, first gave some poisonous chicken soup, and also gave some benefits and promises. When the words inner city quota came out, it was obvious that many people's expressions changed. Many people from the outer city who came here may have just lost their relatives, but now they pricked up their ears and began to listen to Sichuan's words. Tao Yu also listened. The environment in the inner city is better. If his strength is really enough to stand on his own, he certainly wants to move in with his family, but this is not what he wants to consider for the time being, because the so-called inner city quota is just put out as a lure. It is too superficial for the time being. Even if he really gets it, compared with the gap in strength between himself and the two inner city young masters, Tao Yu doesn't want to go in and suffer. In comparison, some other related favorable conditions may be more practical. The first is skill learning. There are many gyms in the outer city where skills can be learned, but Tao Yu's family has no money to send him there, so he can only rely on his third brother to teach him basic breathing method. This time, the first more practical reward is that the owner of the combat talent, or the recognized auxiliary talent, you can choose a skill to learn for free in many gyms in the outer city. If the combat talent is not low, you can also choose 2 free skills. In addition to the free skills, the first skill is half price, and this half price is not limited to talents, applicable to all pioneers who survived in the new settlement. The loan interest rate for learning the first skill has also dropped, becoming 9 out of 11, and you can't choose according to the dish. As long as you are a pioneer in the new settlement, you must be allowed to repay in installments if you don't have a loan. In addition to the money that the siblings mentioned before, you can get 1,000 units of willpower if the conditions are met. If you just choose ordinary skills, the half-price learning fee is equivalent to paying for it. It can be regarded as giving some benefits, because of the bitter environment on weekdays. Now suddenly giving such a degree of benefits, the scene is really full of praise. In addition, the company's urban construction department has set up a new sub-department reclamation department, which also has a newly established outer city department under the reclamation department, divided into combat brigade and auxiliary brigade. Anyone who comes back alive from the new settlement can join regardless of talent. Note that it is ignoring talent. When this voice came out, Tao Yu even heard the exclamations of the people around him, and many people's eyes lit up. In this regard, Tao Yu also understood the reason for their exclamation. Don't look at the fact that his parents' combined income is only 300 units of willpower per month, but considering their relatively safe environment, this is definitely an ideal job for many people from other cities. Tao Yu's family income is only middle-low, and another reason for their hard life is that there are too many people, and his parents attach great importance to the awakening day, and almost every child will make similar preparations. I just saved up for Tao Yu here, and I will definitely save up for the 8th child. In 2 years, the 8th child will be 18. On weekdays, some relatively stable jobs are required. Fight for it. You have to take the initiative to find work in various departments or factories. You can only be admitted if you have the right talent and ability, otherwise, you have to find a way to adventure in the world fragments outside the gathering place. Maybe some low-level pioneers can occasionally earn a lot of money through adventure, but both the danger and stability are here. Many times, the children cannot be taken care of, and then they become cannon fodder because of insufficient points. Tao Yu's mother works in the leather factory. His sturdy and durable cowhide armor was made by his mother. His father is a sentry in the city guard of the Abyss Gathering Place. The city guard of the Abyss Gathering Place is not the security team of the outer city. The conditions are much worse, but compared with other outer cities, the job of the person is not bad, but now according to Sichuan, it seems that as long as you can choose to go to the new gathering place and come back alive, you can join this department under the company. Many factories in the gathering place are not actually affiliated with the company. They are opened by some people in the inner city, and they just pay taxes regularly. This is the case with the factory where Tao Yu's mother works. It can be said that it is quite rare to be able to enter the company's direct department. At least a fixed salary is something that many people cannot refuse, and you can also earn cannon fodder points, but the danger of opening up a new gathering place is also beyond doubt, and the cannon fodder points themselves are based on rankings. If everyone can earn, then if there are not many people, then there is no point. However, the new development area has not yet come up with the cannon fodder mode because of insufficient number of people, which is good news. Tao Yu is also weighing things quickly in his heart. He was very satisfied with the free skills. He could deify the skills, and he could get 2 for free with B-level talents, but Tao Yu was really not interested in joining the urban construction department, the reclamation department, the outer city department, the combat brigade, etc. of that company. It is true that he needs a place to settle down and rest in the abyss, but after experiencing an unsuccessful team formation, he is still more cautious about this aspect. He has a lot of secrets. He is not opposed to occasionally forming a temporary team to do something, but it is better to forget about joining a restricted place for a long time, because he had little experience before. Tao Yu was a little unclear about some structures, work and modes. The biggest expectation of his family before was that he could awaken his sea-level combat talent and join the outer city security team to bring honor to the family. At the very least, he had to find a stable factory to screw screws. Well, this is naturally no longer an option. I'll ask Uncle Hu for advice later, and I have to find a place to sell the goods I carry. Tao Yu, who was carrying 2 wolf legs and a bulging backpack on his back, also determined what to do next. Hey, Brother Tao Yu, it's great that you're okay. The backpack is so heavy, I'll help you carry it. After all, Uncle Tao Hu asked me to take care of you. At this moment, a joyful voice came from the side, and Li Lu came over immediately. Looking at Tao Yu's backpack, his face was full of heat, and he reached out to grab the backpack. Li Lu was full of surprise and excitement at this time. He didn't expect that this kid would come back alive. Only he knew the properties of the blood orchid. Relying on the previous relationship in the inner city of his family, it can definitely be sold at a good price. He didn't think the other party would resist, and he would definitely give some benefits. To put it bluntly, do you dare to sell this thing? Aren't you afraid of being stuffed to death? Tao Yu glanced at it and knocked the other party's hand with the wolf leg in his hand. Don't look at it, I ate it all. Feeling the pain in his wrist and being surprised at Tao Yu's strength, Li Lu was dumbfounded when he heard this, and his eyes were red. Eat it? How can you be so wasteful? Li Lu didn't believe it, but the pain in his hand told him that the other party's strength was indeed very great. Looking at the eyes around him, Li Lu didn't want to say much. While suppressing his anger to calm himself, he walked over and lowered his voice. I was wrong in the team before, but I couldn't do anything about it because Brother Naching was suppressing me. You can't eat that thing. Let's cooperate. If you really eat it, I know you can't keep it, and absorbing the willpower feels extravagant, so you naturally eat it. Tao Yu said with a smile, as if he didn't care about Li Li's attitude at the time, and now, back in the real world, even though it's a bit chaotic here, there are still basic rules. It's impossible to kill someone in broad daylight, and saying nice things won't hurt. Chapter 27. Sorry. You are listening at NovelsReturning. Really eaten? Li Li's eyes darkened, and he suddenly became angry. However, looking at Tao Yu's smile and thinking about his performance in the team, he still suppressed the anger in his heart. My family left the inner city in embarrassment, and now they are also the losers in the outer city. I cannot be as willful, young and frivolous as the children in the inner city. Anger will not solve the problem, nor will it bring any benefit. If it's just a trash little karami, then forget it, but with a B-level, dynamic vision, and eating so many blood orchids, I'm afraid his physical fitness is not weak, and he has a ready-made instant combat power. This was probably a powerful force during the land reclamation period. He also had a bad attitude towards Tao Yu and the team and did not show off to Tao Hu, but that was mainly because Wei Nuo didn't like Tao Yu. Now that Joseph is dead and Wei Nuo is seriously injured, this guy is not worthless. This made Li Lu reluctantly squeeze out a smile and said, well, it's not a waste to invest in your own strength. You have a good talent. Li Lu felt aggrieved by holding back his anger and saying such things, but he had to say it. Really? Actually, I think so too. You are really discerning. Tao Yu's fluttering words almost made Li Lu unable to hold his nerve, so he asked him to take a breath before speaking with a cheerful expression. Your talent is good enough. You should be able to receive 2 skills for free. What do you have here? It's full of skills. He still didn't give up, but the rules here made it impossible for him to do anything obvious in broad daylight. At first, I could have an excuse if I accidentally tore the bag when I was enthusiastic about it, but now I really have no choice. No matter how dark it is here, the rules on the surface must still be followed. At least Li Lu, who is also from the outer city, must. As long as Tao Yu doesn't take the initiative, there is nothing he can do now, and Tao Yu didn't want others to worry about her all the time, so she opened a small gap to let others take a look. Snake Fangs, a set of skills. The gains from this set of skills are indeed not small. It allows the inner city children to obtain resources specifically, but it is not too conspicuous. It is much better than a pack of blood orchids. It has the talents of Uncle Hu and Tao Yu himself. Now, it's enough to suppress this level of wealth. You're going back? That it was originally a casual question, but Li Li's eyes widened when he saw those snake teeth. Damn it, everyone in the inner city is dead. You are a real tiger. Why don't you go back? You don't want to rob me, do you? How could it be? Our star city is a place with rules. Li Lu was speechless for a while. He was a country bumpkin who had never seen the world. If it was that bag of blood orchids, he might secretly think about it afterwards. Ordinary skills with about 3,000 willing units would be unnecessary and not cost-effective. Well, actually I went back afterwards, but it was a step too late. Zhang Wei, who was carrying a large bag of snake meat, also came over at this time, with a D+ level, endurance, talent and a gun. This kid was lucky enough to survive in the end. If one really encounters an alien, Li Lu will be disappointed. The two of them can be considered lucky, just like the group of people who survived in the square now. Zhang Wei changed his attitude after Wei Nuo showed his suppression of Tao Yu. Tao Yu would not say what he thought of him. Everyone has their own position and interests, which is understandable. It's just that this position is understandable but does not need to be accepted. The relationship between the two is just a casual acquaintance. They can form a team temporarily, but there is no need to have a deep friendship. Oh, there is a gap in strength, so there is no need to form a temporary team. The possibility of intersection in the future is not high, of course. It's impossible to say bad words or something to offend people for no reason. Picture what? Sometimes little people have so many tricks that are disgusting. It's really rare that we can meet again as a team. We can cooperate more when we have opportunities in the new gathering place in the future. Tao Yu smiled and said some polite words, but Zhang Wei and Li Lu didn't feel anything was wrong. Looking around again, they saw that among the outlanders from their previous team, only the 3 of them with fighting talents and weapons survived. The casualties on the day of awakening this time were indeed heavy. B-level, dynamic vision. What a boy. I know you have a lot of brushes, and your body bones are much stronger. It is much more pleasing to the eye than before. Uncle Hu, who was waiting with Tao Yu's parents, also brightened up after Tao Yu came to meet and ask, looking at Tao Yu's strong body and taller body, he felt that this boy had gained a good harvest. In the end, I didn't expect that my talent was still B-level. Dynamic vision is a very common combat talent, but it is still a combat talent after all. With B-level, if you work hard, you may even have a chance to enter the inner city. The key is that we also happen to encounter the opening up of new gathering places, which is both a risk and an opportunity. Although space-time anomalies are troublesome, they are also opportunities for you. The higher the talent, the better. The higher the talent, the more valuable it is, and the easier it is to be appreciated. Now is the time when we are short of manpower. Maybe after you report your talent, you can still work for Master Sunday. Call Miss Sun. After Uncle Tiger talked about the 2 people in the floating city, there was also an instinctive look of awe on his face. Father Tao and Mother Tao even cried with joy, their eyes red. My old Tao family has a B-level combat talent. Once their status is improved, they will also be able to improve, and the points of the cannon fodder sequence can also be increased. It's a great thing in all respects. As for the dangers of land reclamation, what can you do in this world that is not dangerous? 4 of the 8 children in the family have died. In comparison, having an opportunity and channel to enter the inner city is better than anything else. Thinking of what the security captain said before, Tao Long gritted his teeth and said with a bit of anger. Old Chi, let's go and do it. We want to arm you even though we are trying to sell iron. You must learn half-price skills. Then he said to Uncle Tiger with some pleading. Tiger, I only know you in the family. I must help you with this matter. Give your eldest nephew a hand. You don't need to tell me that I have to give him a hand. I can't bury my B-level fighting talent. Uncle Hu's eyes flashed and he agreed. Tao Yu's talent is also a very good return on investment for him. In the past, Tao Long had helped him when he was down and out, but love was something that became less and less used. As he installed the robotic arm, the status of the 2 families became even greater again. However, Tao Yu's timely B-level combat talent appeared and solved all the problems again. The relationship will be stronger when we have contact with each other. Go back and make a thorough plan for the future of the child, and test your talent first. Ayu, you can't fool your Uncle Hu on your talent. Uncle Tiger said teasingly. Although the security captain Zichuan had a lot to say, there was no talent registration or testing at the scene. This kind of stuff is only known by the individual himself, and he can't just say whatever he wants. When the test is officially required, it is usually when you actively sign up to work somewhere. Based on the experience accumulated over the years, different tests and divisions are conducted based on different talents. Therefore, the talent levels that outsiders claim to have usually have varying degrees of authenticity, whether they are true or false. Hee, you are only strong but not weak. Please don't worry, Uncle Tiger. In this way, Tao Hu, who was hanging on a mechanical arm, took the 3 of them back to his home. Tao Hu's status was good before he was injured. The place where he lived was much better than Tao Yu's. It was close to the inner city wall and within the fire protection range of the wall. This is also a benefit for members of the security team. They are close to their workplace and safe. Tao Hu, who was injured on duty before, could not be driven away while injured. There are many residences nearby, and most of them are in a patchwork style. You can only bring a limited amount of things to and from the abyss each time, so you can put things together here and there. Almost everyone outside has developed this habit, so I don't think it's strange. In terms of living environment alone, the private plots of these family areas of the security teams are much better than those in the walled cities and outer cities. I just made these 2 good legs. Let my mother-in-law show you her skills today. Arriving at the residence that resembled a tin house, Tao, who took the wolf leg from Tao Yu's hand, entered the house and loudly asked his mother-in-law to prepare dinner. Tao, who himself is dark and stocky, but his wife's appearance is quite good for the outer city. Tao Yu, who has been bombarded by various online beauties in her previous life, can also score a 6. She is still barefaced, tall and has a good face, but her skin is slightly rough due to housework and exposure to wind and sun. At least for Tao, who, judging by his appearance alone, the contrast is quite large, making people subconsciously think of Wu Dalong and Pan Jinlian, but in terms of actual status, because of Tao Hu's identity and status, even in the lowest period when he was disabled, and who was just good-looking but not very talented, was absolutely dominated by him. Just the fact that someone was injured in the line of duty and exempted her from the cannon fodder position is enough to make many women jealous. Uncle, who still has 2 sons and a daughter alive, but they are both not at home today. While Aunt Tiger was cooking and processing the ingredients quickly, Uncle Tiger also took a few people to sit on the leather sofa in the living room, genuine leather. It looks a bit like 3 pieces of brown bear skin sewn together. I don't know what kind of stuffing is stuffed inside except the supporting frame. Tao Yu, who was all dirty, obviously left a few marks after sitting down, but people from outside the city didn't pay much attention to these things. I only know an outline of the specific standard for B-level, dynamic vision. After all, I don't care about the test. Let's do a rough calculation first. When they sit down, they should get straight to the point. This point must be made clear. It's okay to brag in front of their relatives. If deception occurs in the official test, it will be over. As he spoke, Tao Hu rubbed his robotic arm, as if he was adjusting the speed with his eyes closed, and the next moment he flashed in front of Tao Yu. Sorry, it seemed like it was sped up just now. Punch, 3, 2, punch, 4. Tao Yu's voice spoke at the same time as Tao Hu's, and then they both fell silent at the same time, with a thought flashing through their minds. Are you kidding me? Chapter 28 Partners. You are listening at NovelsReturning. Tao Yu has no idea what the level parameters are. He only has the passive dynamic vision of bullet time. Anyway, even if he doesn't use it actively, it is much stronger than the B-level dynamic vision when he first entered. It is the max ability certified by the world will. Even if he doesn't use it actively, he may reach or even exceed the max dynamic vision. Under this gap, Tao Yu really doesn't feel any difference whether Tao Hu is faster or slower. It's just like when humans watch a snake attack a cat. It looks as fast as lightning, but in fact, in the eyes of a cat, the speed of the snake is so fast that it can never bite. Is B-level so accurate? Tao Hu glanced at Tao Yu dimly. Although he was not responsible for the test, this second-hand mechanical arm was at full power just now. B-level can't be so clear, right? This is the speed of attack, not the speed of movement. Well, actually I am a little exaggerated, mainly because I was envied by others in the abyss before. Tao Yu coughed dryly. This caused Tao Hu to sneer. What's the water? What are you jealous of? If you are not envied, you are a mediocre person. After saying that, Tao Hu looked at Tao Yu seriously. Boy, when you are strong enough, you will be surrounded by good people and kindness. Don't care about other things. Tao Hu used to be in the security team, retired with disability, and then got a mechanical arm to come back. It can be said that he has ups and downs, and he is quite thorough in this aspect. A-level, dynamic vision, should be a standard ability in the inner city. Don't worry about it at all. At this point, Tao Hu paused again and emphasized. Besides, now is the beginning stage of the new gathering place plan. You, an A-level, dynamic vision, can easily attract the attention of 2 big figures in the floating city. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Tao Hu's face then looked a little solemn again. Even if someone may think that you are in the way of competing for favor, you must compete at this time. You are from the outside city. You have no other way to go except to fight and fight. You can't make others compromise by giving in, but you can when you are strong enough. After hearing what Tao Yu said, Tao Yu hesitated for a moment, then let's go with A-level first, and make adjustments depending on the situation. In fact, he originally thought so, and even felt that it didn't matter even if Max, dynamic vision, was revealed, but after experiencing a wave of inner-city children's talents that were difficult to break through, he felt that it was not so safe. Besides, the new gathering place may indeed have competition for favor, and others may think that you are in the way. Entanglement of interests. So when I came back, I just said the insignificant B-level. Uncle who is right. Tao Yu had a learned expression on his face, but at this time, Tao Yu still had some residual shock and surprise in his heart. A-level and B-level seem to have little difference, but in fact, there is a clear difference in status. Ordinary combat talents of B-level only have the opportunity to enter the inner city. Even if they succeed in entering the inner city by chance, they are absolutely at the bottom. There are several ordinary combat talents of B-level among his colleagues. They can get in if they work hard, but they are still used to the stable life in the outer city. But A-level combat talents, as long as they have enough time and resources to grow up, they have the opportunity to climb to the middle level in the inner city, which is completely different. There is even a chance to bring the whole family in to form a small family. But the premise of all this is to have time and resources to grow. Tao Yu's status occasionally allows him to come into contact with some big figures. He clearly knows the huge gap in background between people in the inner city and people in the outer city. Tao's father and mother next to him are even a little confused, and it is obvious that they are still a little bit unable to adapt. A-level is good. This way you can find a way to replan the plan. Now your most important thing is to hold the thighs of the two big figures in the floating city. It's different now than it was before. You've all arrived at the new development area, which is different from the old gathering place. When they need people, they can just let you know a few, which is enough for you to work hard for a long time. If you can make them your confidants, it will be enough to save you decades of detours. Tao Yu looked a little excited. He had such a good talent, and it happened that he encountered a rare new gathering place to open up. The two big men in the floating city were short of people. This was a godsend. In fact, Tao Yu really considered Tao Yu's proposal, and even had a heartbeat. Looking at the figure and appearance of the eldest lady of the Sun family, he even had a brief fantasy time. With the baptism of the internet in the 21st century, Tao Yu recognized that women would affect the speed of drawing swords, but rich women won't. Think about how much Joseph can lend out at will, and he can bring a dozen luxury equipment on the day of awakening, and his willpower starts at 100,000 units. What will the children of the floating city, whose gap is larger than that of the inner and outer cities, have? If you can really get along well, you can really surpass now Tao Yu's jungle speed. Well, but unfortunately, if you really cling to the thigh, it is likely to be put on a tight ring. Maybe because of talent, you may really cling to it, but in the early stage of the land reclamation, you may have to be the kind of person who can be called at any time, and your various strange skills will be easily discovered after a long time. Who knows what special abilities the people in the floating city have? And you have to fight in a group of licking dogs including the children of the inner city, and the blood flows like a river. It's too much to do this with a cheat, so this way was temporarily shelved by Tao Yu before coming here, and it can only be used as a retreat, such as encountering big troubles and saving your life first. I don't reject contact, but I don't want to become a lackey who can be called at any time. Well, Uncle Tiger, I don't like restraint very much, so I'm not going to sign a contract with the Wasteland Development Office. Tao Yu's words made Tao Yu, who had an excited expression on his face, stiffen, and then said in a tone of hatred that iron cannot be transformed into steel. You're confused. Constraints? Who in this world can be unconstrained? Can even the big shots in the floating city be free of constraints? I just don't want it to be so big. I've heard of partners. I wonder if Uncle Yu can tell me about it. Tao Yu didn't care about Uncle Yu's attitude and continued to ask with a shy face. Tao Yu glared at him angrily. Next to him, Tao's father and Tao's mother also wanted to say something, but in the end they didn't. A-level talent, the child has grown up, the person who makes the decision is you, and we can only provide references. But your talent is here. If you regret it, you can continue to work at any time. However, when there are more people, there will be no such good opportunities. In the past half-month, people from the inner city have chosen newly developed areas every day. Tao Yu muttered at first, but then patiently told Tao Yu about the partnership system. He knows that this eldest nephew is still too stable, and he doesn't want to compete with those inner city kids for favor, so he chose this way to get rid of him, but this is indeed a way out. Partner is a special model of the company, just to give guys with your personality a place to go. It has a higher threshold than anyone can become a mercenary or bounty hunter, but there are indeed many benefits as well. Quite a few. After saying this, Tao Yu paused slightly, and then continued. Even the minimum requirement for a junior partner is to have a LV5 basic skill, or equivalent strength. However, if you have A-level talent, this threshold can be relaxed appropriately. Tao Yu's words gave Tao Yu some idea. The basic ability of LV5 can be regarded as the limit of ordinary people, and it is a general and overall standard. Tao Yu should be able to reach it without any special bonuses. So many blood orchids are not in vain. If you become a partner, you have to consider the cannon fodder sequence. However, your talent blessing is too high, so you usually don't need to worry about this. The new gathering place is short of people, and the cannon fodder mechanism should not be introduced now. As Tao Yu slowly revealed his story, Tao Yu also gained a clearer understanding of his partner, whom he had only heard about from his parents' stories. The company's partners are divided into junior, intermediate, senior, silver and gold medals. Each level will have some corresponding privileges and a high degree of freedom, but promotion is also quite strict. There are a series of standards for the number of tasks, task points, task difficulty, and even strength. The capabilities and privileges of the company's several gold medal partners are no less than those of the company's decision-makers. They actually have a bright future, but it's difficult to do it all by yourself. Seeing Tao Yu still looking like he had made a decision, Tao Yu couldn't help but sigh. Okay, I won't advise you anymore, just feel it for yourself first. If you have good talent, you can turn around and do whatever you want. Hey, thank you Uncle Tiger. Tao Yu knows what is good and what is good. Currently, both his parents and uncle who have helped him a lot. Uncle who may have some investment ideas, but his heart is not as good as his deeds. He agrees with this. By the way, if you register as a partner, you can also register as a mercenary and a bounty hunter. There will be more missions and more places to buy information. But you need to carefully distinguish between mercenary and bounty tasks. Sometimes there are pitfalls if you are not directly sent by the company. Tao Yu then made another suggestion. After hesitating for a moment, he added. Although partner tasks come from the company, sometimes you have to pay attention to whether there are any pitfalls. Generally speaking, they are better than mercenaries and bounties. There is no threshold for becoming a mercenary and a bounty hunter. Anyone can do it, and they can also do it part-time. Not only Tao Yu himself has registered, but Tao Yu's parents, the disabled third brother, and the third sister-in-law have also registered. Both of them complete tasks, but there are certain differences. Bounty hunters usually complete tasks alone or with a few people, and there are miscellaneous tasks. Mercenaries usually work in groups for combat, exploration, escort, rescue, or cleaning tasks. Some mercenaries will form fixed mercenary groups or even set up companies, but most of them will act as skirmishers. When the soldier received a suitable task, he howled loudly, and some familiar mercenaries who were free quickly put it together, somewhat similar to the model of the contractor. And the group performer. The biggest difference between partner and these two professions with no threshold is that partner takes the official tasks of the company, while the tasks of the other two can be released by anyone. All company tasks that flow into the hands of mercenaries and bounty hunters are first screened by partners. There will even be fixed mercenary groups or even companies composed purely of partners, who specifically select some high-quality company group tasks. This style of splicing made Tao Yu feel a little confused, but when he thought about this terrible world, it seemed inexplicably consistent. The world seems to be normal like this. Chapter 29 Goodwill. You are listening at NovelsReturning. Among the many strange buildings in the outer city, there is a large castle in the shape of a Chinese character U, which stands out from the crowd. In terms of the uniformity of workmanship and materials, it is much more beautiful than the inner city wall with wooden patches. This is also the office of Xingyao Company in the outer city, which handles almost all the company's affairs in the outer city. It is a place where the security team has no right to enter without permission, and is collectively called the Black House by the people in the outer city. The dark stone material of the outer wall of the building is indeed worthy of this name, but at the same time, it may also have other meanings. Hey, Tiger is here, how is it? Is the robotic arm adapted? That there is a permanent security team patrolling directly at the gate and responsible for access control. When the team leader saw Tao Yu and Tao Yu coming over, he smiled and greeted them, and Tao Yu also distributed a homemade cigarette to each of the 6 members of the security team. My nephew has good talent. Bring him here to handle some business. Wow, to be called good by you, he must have at least C-level combat talent, right? He can join the team. Is there any B-level? The team leader smiled and lit a cigarette, and replied appropriately. Tao Yu used to have predictive eyes, and his ability was not weak. Now that he has a mechanical arm, he has become a master in the security team. Naturally, he will sell it well. A-level, dynamic vision, but it's a pity that it's an ordinary combat talent. It's a pity. Tao Yu laughed and had been waiting for this moment for a long time. His face was full of smugness and boasting. A-level. This voice made several members of the security team nearby exclaim in a low voice, the security team is a very good place in the outer city. To be able to enter, you must have at least D+ level ordinary combat talent, and you also need to be assessed. If you want to enter steadily, you must at least be comparable to C-level ordinary combat talent. It doesn't matter if your strength is temporarily poor, the talent must be in place. It can be said that their talents are not bad, and they are arrogant on weekdays, but now when they heard about the A-level talent, they all looked sideways, and many people showed envy. They brought it here, so it must not be bragging. What business do you want to do? I guess you have to test it. Even if it is an ordinary combat talent, it is incredible to reach the A-level. The stinky boy is lucky. Tao Yu looked like a fisherman who caught a big catch, with a fake smile on his face, which made Tao Yu a little speechless, but this was originally meant to be used to meet people, so it's okay to show off everywhere. Because of the power of the first kill, the intelligence itself is indeed very important, but the people in the outer city must first ensure that they use their talents to gain benefits. There needs to be a trade-off, and you can't give up because of choking. Just like watching Tao Yu register step by step, he signed and wrote down his destination and entered the castle. In the dark outside during the day, the castle used electric lights, which was quite luxurious. It was brighter than outside. The walls were a little mottled, but it was much better than the ordinary buildings in the outer city. Occasionally, the employees passing by had a sense of pride on their faces, while some other people who were obviously from the outer city to handle some business seemed a little restrained. Whether it was clothing or attitude, they could be distinguished at a glance. At this time, Uncle Hu's mechanical arm was also a symbol of status, and there was no trouble or difficulty on the road. Even though it was Uncle Hu, Tao Yu could feel that he was not as natural as outside, but as an old hand in the outer city, he quickly took Tao Yu to an office and knocked on the door. Tao Yu saw the sign on the office and recognized a few words, General Office. There are not many partners in the outer city. Generally, they just handle business here by the way. But don't worry, everything is available. Tao Yu quickly said something to Tao Yu, and then he heard the lazy voice in the room. Come in. After pushing the door and entering, he saw a middle-aged man with silver hair, crossing his legs and flipping through a magazine. It's pitiful to see. Tao Yu has been in this world for 18 years. He almost thought that there were no books in this world. He couldn't recognize all the characters and was semi-illiterate. As a result, he saw a magazine here. It should be something issued by the inner city. He had never seen it in the outer city. He had only seen the big character posters full of ink. Captain Tao Yu, the silver-haired middle-aged man inside raised his eyebrows when he saw Tao Yu glance at his mechanical arm, then put away his legs and threw the magazine on the table next to him. What's the matter? that it was considered to be giving Tao Yu basic respect, but as a direct employee of the company, he could only do this step, and there was no smile service. Manager Chen, this is my nephew, he has A-level, dynamic vision, talent, and wants to become a partner. Hey, don't call me Manager Chen, I'm a few years older than you, just call me Brother Chen. Chen Yong, who was sitting on the stool, stood up, a smile on his face, and then looked at Tao Yu with a gentle expression. A-level talent, this is really amazing, and it's a combat talent. While talking, he rummaged through the drawer next to him, pulled out a form, and then went out and said. Come, I'll take you to test your talent, and then fill in the form. Take the two out and close the door, seemingly not caring about what business someone else is coming to handle. Is it just a matter of testing talent? He still has a LV2 shooting level. With the talent and strength, he should be able to meet the standard. There is an access bonus for A-level talents, right? Tao Yu quickly pulled Tao Yu to follow him. You also said that as long as the LV2 shooting level matches his talent, the shooting can reach the standard, so why test the strength? I will fill it in for you when the time comes, so as not to have the trouble of running around. Chen Yong had a smile on his face, and he was much more enthusiastic than before. Before the test, Tao Yu was still thinking that if he didn't control the speed properly and it became max, dynamic vision, again, he would have to explain it to Uncle Hu, but this kind of professionalism is different from Uncle Hu's casual tests. After arriving at the training ground-like room, after hearing about the talent and intensity of the test, the operator put a smile on his face and casually operated in front of a seemingly bulky machine before starting the test. Content, on a monitor with a big but high-frequency pattern changes continued to appear. Tao Yu had 3 chances to tell the correct sequence. If the total error tolerance reached the standard or all of them were correct in one time, he would pass. Naturally, there were no surprises in this assessment. It's indeed A-level, and it's all correct 3 times. It should be pretty good in A-level, maybe close to A+. Chen Yong smiled all over his face. There will be gaps among talents at the same level. It is not a fixed value, but performance, status, environment, etc. are also closely related, so it is a fluctuating test. Thank you, Uncle Chen. Tao Yu is also acting cute next to her. Uncle Hu is right. As long as his own value is reflected, then if there is no conflict of interest, most of the people around him will still be kind. Arrogant inner-city kids like Wei Noah are still relatively rare in the outer city. Thank you. Can I call you Au? Do you have a girlfriend? Do you want me to introduce you two to each other? I want to improve my strength first. After all, cannon fodder points are not so urgent. There is no need to worry. Tao Yu waved her hands repeatedly. To be honest, this body has become very strong after supplementing it with blood orchid. Its qi and blood are very strong, and its orientation is normal. After returning to relax, it will have some random thoughts. From time to time, some scenes and content from past life short videos will appear, but thinking of the weathered faces in the outer city, Tao Yu quickly suppressed her thoughts. Moreover, he himself really believes that improving his strength is the top priority now, and he doesn't want to waste time and energy. Yes, young people with potential are usually carefully selected. Chen Yong had a smile on his face and didn't care at all about Tao Yu's rejection. Stalking and putting pressure on him would actually lead to rejection. Isn't this stupid? But when he started to fill in some application forms, Chen Yong said with some surprise. Wait, you are the pioneer of the new gathering place. The first group had just returned from the new gathering place. Chen Yong really didn't expect it to be this group at first. Should we choose the partner model when we are in urgent need of talents? After thinking of something, Chen Yong was silent for a moment, and then smiled. I made my choice with Captain Tao Yu as a reference. It was a very good choice. I know how to make choices. Children from outer cities mature earlier. Chen Yong felt a little emotional, completed the final signature, and then stamped it. At the same time, he also found a hard case with a certificate that said junior partner and framed one of the certificates inside. He also took out a manual and handed it to Tao Yu. Congratulations, you have officially become a partner of the company. After saying this, he paused before continuing. It's normal for you to choose to avoid the whirlpool at the beginning. In the past 10 days, children from the inner city have entered the new development area every day. With this small number of people, there are not many people who can match your talent, but their accumulation is much higher. After seeing Tao Yu's expression of humbly asking for advice, he continued. It doesn't matter if you leave the core of the vortex first. Many guys in the inner city are arrogant, and young people may not be serious about what they do. Wait until you know what's going on over there before you go back. There will definitely be more people who want to win over you than fear you. This can be regarded as a kind reminder. If it were just an ordinary young man with good talent, Chen Yong would definitely not say so much, but with A-level talent, still in a new gathering place, and knowing how to make choices, as long as you can survive successfully, you will definitely be able to reach the middle level. Thank you, Uncle Chen, for reminding me. I understand. Tao Yu looked at Chen Yong's kind and admonishing expression, compared with his attitude when he first came in, and the arrogance of almost all the employees he saw along the way, and felt a little emotional in his heart, picking up the junior partner certificate, and following Tao Yu back. Tao Yu also found that the arrogance that seemed to exist on the faces of the employees passing by on the road seemed to have disappeared. It seems that he has always had a normal expression, which was enhanced by the filter he wore before. Or, it's because my mentality has changed now. Chapter 30 Family Status. You are listening at NovelsReturning. Junior Partner. Tao Yu said goodbye to Uncle Hu and started to go home. On the way, he looked at the certificate in his hand with a vague look. Afterwards, before he went to the abyss again, he could go to the task halls of various fortresses in the outer city to check the corresponding partner tasks. There are no mandatory restrictions for partners. They are profit-driven by tasks, and there are no mandatory tasks, but if a partner completes at least one task every month, the junior partner will give a guaranteed salary of 200 units of willpower. If all 12 months of the year are completed, he can also get a full attendance award of 1,000 units of willpower at the end of each year. At the same time, completing tasks can also passively increase cannon fodder points, so there is no need to worry about cannon fodder forced conscription. The talent certification is over, and the promised 1,000 units of willpower can also be collected. After dealing with Snake Fong's skills and 5 blood orchids, there should be a good income. I don't know if I can go to the gym to learn the skills before entering the abyss next time. If there is a willpower to assist, there should be a chance. While walking on the muddy and bumpy ground in the outer city with sewage everywhere, Tao Yu also felt that he had the opportunity to move his family to a better environment. The nose was full of some smoke and fire, and there were occasional alligators on the road. He didn't know what the stinky sewage was made of, but looking down at himself, Tao Yu felt that he didn't seem to have the right to dislike this environment. At Uncle Hu's house, Tao Yu just borrowed water to wash his face and cleaned up his body. He didn't have time to take a shower. Now that he started to think about it, the dirtiness he was used to made him feel itchy all over. In fact, he was not a clean person in his previous life. It's not uncommon for him to not take a shower for a few days, but after comparing, he suddenly found that his previous self was simply a germaphobe. People's adaptability is really strong. Tao Yu walked around the pile of Aoligo expressionlessly and saw the farm where his family lived. Although the farm was not his own and he was only responsible for taking care of it, the living environment was relatively okay. It was not as good as the family quarters of the security team, nor as good as those in the fortress, but it was still okay in the outer city, without having to pay protection fees to those gangs. Some families did not even have autonomous machine guns to defend against gray fog monsters. Smelling the familiar smell of cow dung, Tao Yu pushed the door and entered the house. I'm back. Brother. Are you really an A-level talent? That a half-grown guy who was a head shorter than Tao Yu, skinny and about the same size as him before, rushed over first, his face full of excitement, looking at the 8th brother of the family, Tao Shi. Tao Yu also smiled and touched his head, and then felt a greasy hand and his expression froze. Head touching killed himself. I give in. First master the breathing method and be fully prepared. Tao Yu put down his hand and wiped it expressionlessly on his not-so-clean clothes. I will also choose a new gathering place in the future, and I want to go with my seventh brother. Tao Shi kept talking, but Tao Yu paused and sighed. There are still 2 years left. Let's see. If it's now, I won't let you go. It's too dangerous over there. Old 8, what are you thinking about? Are you looking for a fight? There were only 50 people when Old 7 came back. There were more than 200 when they left. Tao Long was originally repairing a triangular stool, and now he stood up and pretended to fight. TSK, I can also awaken a good talent, I want to help my seventh brother too. Although Tao Shi was thin, he was still quite flexible. He circled around Tao Yu, made a face at his old father, and ran out happily. I'm going out to play, and I won't be back for dinner tonight. Tao Yu looked at his younger brother leaving and shook his head helplessly, then turned around and said to his third sister-in-law who was a little reserved. Sister-in-law, is Lao Ba still playing with the group of people from Chaoyang Society? Oh, yes, this kid is really something. Li Li is not talented and does not have a stable job. She usually takes care of the family more and only goes to the abyss for 5 days regularly to deal with it. She knows Tao Shi better than anyone else. Chaoyang Society is one of the many strange societies and gangs in the outer city, a society composed of a group of young people, compared to those societies that collect protection fees and run gray businesses, such as the Wild Wolf Gang and the Skeleton Gang. It is much better, overall, it is not bad, and often helps some poor families. It is already very good to be able to do such things in this ghost environment of the outer city. Forget about that bastard, he seems to have learned some skills from Chaoyang Society. Tao Long's wrinkled face didn't care much about Lao Ba fooling around outside. The outer city was free, and he was already in charge of a lot of things. Seventh brother, your mother and I have saved some money. We will borrow some more when the time comes. You must learn all the skills you can. So many people died. It's too dangerous. Although Tao Yu is talented, Tao Long's face is full of sorrow when talking about the dead. The inner city has such talents. In the early stage, a lot of resources can be invested and quickly gain a foothold, but he really doesn't have it. Don't worry about it. How long will it take to save up with your income? Wait for me to sell the things I brought back first. I asked Uncle Hu to estimate that it will take at least a few thousand units of willpower. Tao Yu patted his backpack. The previous 1,000 willpower startup funds were already squeezed out of the old couple's teeth. It was too difficult to consider his own consumption at their speed of making money. A few thousand. Tao Long was startled, then walked to the door and looked around, and closed the door that Tao Shi had opened before. So many. That's right, danger and opportunity always coexist. Why are you so literary? Tao Yu was speechless when asked this question. Why is this literary? But thinking of his semi-literate status, it seems that. Anyway, don't worry about it. There are many opportunities in the new gathering place. If you want to improve, your income is not enough. Tao Yu said some harsh words cruelly. If he didn't let his parents understand, he would probably have to save money for himself again. It's better to make life better. With the improvement of strength, the consumption gap of willpower is getting bigger and bigger. Even for Tao Yu now, it takes a long time for the old couple to save up for a while to take out the goods in the backpack. Tao's father opened his mouth, but in the end, his dry mouth moved a little, but he still didn't speak. Don't worry, I will definitely pay attention to matters related to my life, and I will try my best to use my time to improve myself. Tao Yu looked at the wrinkles on his father's face and smiled from the bottom of his heart. Well, I really don't have the ability to guide you. Hey, ask your Uncle Hu more when you have time, and remember not to come empty-handed. Tao Long looked at his son's obviously stronger body, and sighed at this time. The old Tao family has a good child. Don't put pressure on yourself, we just want peace. I'm afraid of death. Tao Yu grinned, and then went to the room to see the third brother. The third brother also has a fighting talent and was also high-spirited. But it was precisely because of this that the broken leg was a big blow to him, and he kept himself in the room every day. "Brother, don't worry, I will definitely find a way to get you a mechanical prosthesis in the future." Tao Tong in the room sat on a handmade wooden wheelchair. His legs were empty, but his body was very clean, much cleaner than Tao Yu now, and there was not much stubble left. After hearing Tao Yu's words, Tao Tong's somewhat vicissitudes of life also showed a smile on his face. "You idiot, do you know the price of prosthetics? It's okay to have the intention. Now your first goal is to improve your strength." Tao Tong certainly wants mechanical prosthetics, and he even knows that his brother with A-level talent really has a chance to help him. But, the premise of all this is that his younger brother must grow up. The foundation of the outer city family is too weak. Now the biggest task of the whole family is to find a way not to drag his feet and send him through the adaptation period as soon as possible. Anything that may affect the improvement of his younger brother's strength and his energy cannot be done. Never show the slightest desire for prosthetics in front of his younger brother. Everything, only if the younger brother survives and grows up can there be a better future. This is the consensus of this family. From today on, Tao Yu is the core of the family.